Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Oh yes, we're on Windows today. I busted the Surface out. First time since I think April? I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to do a brief video here today because we realize we talk a whole lot about switching to Linux, and we don't have as many videos on this channel about getting that initial step. Probably the hardest thing that people can wrap their heads around is grabbing what they need to start a Linux distribution here. So I'm on my Windows 10 Surface computer, which was not does not qualify for Windows 11. So of course it will become effective e-waste, or I can switch it to Linux later, or hey, just maybe use it at risk every once in a while to do videos like this. But what we wanted to do today is I want to talk about the process of downloading, verifying, and writing an ISO onto a USB drive. And that is really all we're doing here, is creating the drive that you're going to subsequently plug into your computer, boot off of that drive. And we'll show you that on a separate video soon. And when we do this, then we're going to get a bootable drive that's going to allow us to switch to Linux. And so originally I was going to think about showing the differences between Etcher and Rufus. The problem is there seem to be some issues with Etcher. And I know that Etcher recently released an update which would allow you to get around the Windows 11 system requirements. I remember seeing that in the news. And in fact, we considered discussing it at one point in time. The problem is the current version of Etcher seems to be really broken, and a lot of people are finding problems. And what I'm finding specifically is it cannot load any ISO image at all. And so it's failing to etch ISOs. And somebody had the exact error I was getting, where it was just not allowing it to function at all. So for this time, I'm going to recommend where you look at Rufus instead. And so make sure you have the link right. There are a bunch of people that are doing fake versions of Etcher, fake versions of Rufus with malware. So be very careful about that. So it's the current website is rufus.ie. Now there are other ways to burn drives as well. You guys can have a discussion in the comments about other options. And if you know other options, please go ahead and let us know those down below as well, because we do really want to do a good job here of giving you as many options. In this case, I wanted to show you two options. It's just right now Etcher's not working. So we're going to do this video with Rufus. Also, I did forget to bring up GTKHash, which is the application we're going to be using for that. Yeah, look at that. I'm even using Google as my default here. Look at that. So GTKHash is an available application which is going to allow us to verify our ISO. And let me show you what that looks like. So if you come over here and grab the current release, the 1.5 release is the current one. So this was released a couple years ago. It still is working just fine. So make sure that you are grabbing this one as well. I'll go ahead and leave this link. They might have a website as well. In fact, they do. It's GTKHash.org. So that's is the good place where you can go and probably download it. There you go. View the GitHub, download the zip, download a tarball. Of course, if you are on Linux, there is a FlatHub version of it. That's good. So even if we go over to this page and hit the releases, I believe we have a list of different stores. Oh, look at that. We even have a snap for Linux. So we have the basic source codes. We have an installer. So what we're going to look at here is I'm going to grab the GTK standalone for Windows 64. That's the one that I'm going to grab. Every time I have the option, I want to use a standalone or a portable version of a software on Windows, because we don't have to install it. We're doing the same with Rufus. Over here, if you go to the download, in this case, there's a standard which allows you to install it, or there's a portable which allows you to just run it. And so I want to just use the portable where you just run it. That way there's nothing installed on the system and it works a little bit better. As for our download tests, we're going to be looking at 2 versions of Linux Mint. I have the Linux Mint Mate edition, and I also have an LMDE. We also have the Arch Linux download here as well. So I'm not going to provide the links for those in the description. Those are easy to find, linuxmint.com. If you're brand new to Linux, don't try Arch at least using this way out of the box. I'd steer you more towards an Endeavor OS, Dragora. People are talking about a lot. There's so many good Arch systems that are a lot easier to use. I'm doing it just because I had it already downloaded, and what I want to do is I want to show you 3 examples of verifying an ISO as well. So the first thing, let's go ahead and get rid of Etcher, because that's not working. We'll get rid of Etcher's releases there. So we went to GTKHash. I'm going to leave you this website where you can download the files. This is actually I'm going to give you this GitHub download page instead, because I think just grabbing it here, it's a little easier to quickly grab what you need. So we'll give you that one, and then we'll give you the Rufus one. Again, I recommend the portable. You can use the standard if you want. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about downloading your ISO. So I have the Linux Mint 22 Mate, I have the LMDE 6 Cinnamon, and I have the Arch Linux. So all you do for Arch Linux, this one's actually hit the download page, and somewhere in here you can grab the torrent links. There's the netboot is, I believe, the one that I have. But if you go down here at the bottom, you want to find the checksums and signatures. So GTKHash is going to give us a SHA-256 sum, which means it's going to look at the file and it's going to release a unique hashtag. And as long as the hashtag the file gives us and this hashtag here match, we are in good shape. With Linux Mint, if you just go to linuxmint.com, let me go back to their homepage and hit the download button. And over here, this takes you to your regular ones. Now, I prefer the Cinnamon edition. I just didn't happen to have that on my USB drive that I was transferring these around with. And I did have the Mate version. So we're going to hit the download button here. And down here is all the download mirrors. So find whatever country you're in and just click the button to download the distribution. Now over here, we have the authenticity. So what we're going to do is look at this some text here. And this is just a text file that's giving us the 3 files here, the Linux Mint 22 Cinnamon, Linux Mint 22 Mate, Linux Mint 22 XFCE, and then this here is the SHA-256 sum. Now we've talked about how to do this on Linux and on Apple. There's a terminal command. Here on Windows, I think there probably is a command. If you guys know what that is, leave that down in the description down below. That'd be useful for people that don't want to install any extra software. But we're going to do everything here really easy and friendly in the GUI. Let's go ahead and pull up our GTKHash. So this is our GTKHash standalone. Now, the first time you run it, it should have run the application. Hold on a second. Why did it not run the application itself? Oh, that was the folder. I think I need to double click that. There you go. First time you run it, it's going to be like, Windows has protected you from yourself. Don't worry about that. Just run the stupid program. Now, of course, if you've gotten it from a reliable source, run the program. That's one of the downsides on Windows, is there's not a safe distribution method for some of these things. So we're going to just copy this tag here from the Mate line. And that's going to get pasted here. I'm going to grab my ISO first. So let's grab our Linux Mint Mate, and then I'm going to paste my SHA-256 sum in there. I'm going to hit the hash button. And what this is going to do is it's going to verify that file. And at the end, what we should see is a green shield next to the check, and then it should show us the green shield next to the SHA-256. The other ones we're not using. You might have hashtags for those other platforms out there, but they're not really considered super secure, so they're not really used as much anymore. So there you can see that the checksum matches the SHA-256, which is exactly what we expected. We are in totally awesome shape here. Let's go ahead and test the Arch one as well. So here's our Arch. Pull up our Arch file. And then we're going to replace this, run the hash on the Arch file, and then you're going to see the same result. We're going to get a shield on both sides. So there you have it. Now, the last one we're going to look at, let's go back over here, hit your download page in LMDE6. This is our last one. Now, somebody asked a really good question in the comments the other day, and I did answer it the other day, but I want to go ahead and answer it again here. They said, what's the purpose of verifying the download? Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, if somebody hacks these servers, and this did happen in Linux Mint a number of years back, if somebody hacks the servers and replaces the ISO images with a malicious copy, you might be installing malware. So the hashtag will verify that. Also, if there's an issue in transferring the file, then it is also going to fail. So what we're going to do here is I have the 64-bit here, and we're going to copy the tag. Now, this one followed, this one just simply did not get transferred correctly. And you'll notice that this one got put on the drive March 20th, 2024. This is right around the time I was installing this ISO or this distribution on a new computer for somebody. And when I transferred it from the original download over onto the USB drive to transfer it, there was an error in the transfer. So this one's actually going to fail. So here we're going to do this, and then I'll show you here that this is matching that. So it is the Linux Mint 6 Cinnamon 64-bit, Linux Mint 6 Cinnamon 64-bit. When we hash this one, it's actually going to fail. And the reason for this wasn't a malicious hacker. This is the file did not properly transfer to the USB drive, which means if I'm attempting to install Linux with this file, it's going to fail. And that's actually another reason why you want to verify your ISOs. So here you'll notice that the hash does not match. It doesn't match anything on the list because it is a corrupted file. If I were to try to boot this file, it's going to fail. Now it might, if the hash doesn't match, it might boot, but it might not install. It might give me some weird result. And I might say, well, Linux just sucks. It's unstable. No, it doesn't suck and it's unstable. There was just a corruption in the file, and that's why you want to verify your files. So we know that whatever we're doing, we're not going to use the LMDE6 because that file is corrupt. I'd want to grab that from another source. But the other two pass their validation, so I can create an ISO image. And of these two, for a new user, I'd recommend Linux Mint 22 Mate. Now, I prefer Cinnamon more than Mate, but like I said, I already had the Mate on my drive. So what I've done from here is I have plugged in a USB drive. I'm not sure if this system can't see it because the way it's formatted. If I dig into the system files and show all disks, you would see there's a USB drive plugged into this system here. Oh, there you go. Do you want to allow this to make changes? Sure. Let's go ahead and make changes. So this is Rufus, and this is the application you can use on Windows to create an ISO file. So the first is hit device, and this is it should show us the device that's available. Why is it not? Apparently it wasn't showing me my drive because my drive was not properly installed. It should have been. Hey, it's flashing at me now. Look at that. Let me see if the PC's in there. Okay, it can see it. I think I was moving my computer around a couple times as I was doing other things. I think I might have bumped the drive out. So what we should see here is the only drives that Rufus should give you to write to are portable drives, like thumb drives and things like this. It's never going to show you your main operating system disk. It probably is not going to show you a non-operating system disk that's internal, but be careful of that if that's your situation. Make sure you know what you're doing. So this one here, 32 gigabyte, that is exactly the PNY 32 gigabyte drive that I use here for burning ISOs. Now it says disk or ISO, please select. So you can see that we have non-bootable, we have disk or ISO, we have MS-DOS, FreeDOS. We're going to select this one here, disk or ISO, and then we have to select which one we're using. We're going to use the Mate. So what this is going to do now there's a persistent file says here. I have not played around with the persistence. Maybe I'll do that on a future video. Persistence would mean that there's a part of the drive that you can use as a regular drive. It's going to create a separate partition you can move files onto. That's actually a neat feature. I've not seen that in Rufus before. I haven't used Rufus in a while. So maybe we'll play with that later. For now, keep that at the default of 0 because all we're doing is creating an installation drive. Now, if you want to test Linux out, if you just want to give Linux a good test and save files to it, you might play with that. But for the purpose of this video, we're not going to do that. Partition scheme, we have GPT or MBR. You want to be on the MBR, and then target system. Choose BIOS or UEFI. That's going to allow the drive to boot no matter which direction your system moves. BIOS is kind of like the older way to boot it. UEFI is kind of the newer way to boot a drive. There are some advanced things. We can list USB hard drives. So I guess if you did this, you might see extra hard drives listed. Add fixes for old BIOSes. Enable runtime. We don't need any of those. Format options. What do you want to label it? So in this case, it wants to label it effectively what the file name is. That's actually pretty good. That way, if I plug the drive in, if I forget what it is, and I plug the drive in any random computer, the label kind of tells me what it is. Okay. And then you probably want to leave your file systems the same. If you change your file systems, that might impact the drive's ability to boot once you are doing that. Quick format, you want to do the quick unless there's data on this drive you want to make sure is securely erased. That will take a lot of time to do this if you do not select the quick format. Create the extended label for icons. That's fine. Check for bad blocks. This one will also increase the time, but if you suspect your USB drive might be bad or corrupted, you might do that, and that might fix some of the issues. Once it says ready down here, we are set to go. Hit your start button. And then now it's going to say, do you want to write in ISO image mode or in DD image mode? So the difference there is the ISO image mode is going to basically transfer the ISO, which is effectively an image file of a system, over onto the drive. DD is kind of like the Linux way of doing things. Many people prefer the DD mode. In this case, we just want to just copy the whole file over because the system should work just fine. So we're going to keep it recommended in the ISO mode. And then the image uses this. Let's see what this one is. Not compatible with one another. It wouldn't be possible for Rufus to include them. 2 additional files must be downloaded from the internet. Select yes to continue and download the files. So these are just extra files that are needed to make this go. So we need to hit yes, and they're going to be downloaded in the current application directory and will be reused automatically. So that's this Rufus folder that was created when we ran it. So it's going to download the files. It's going to do this. Warning, destroying all data on the device. This is on the USB drive that we were writing to. Of course, we're going to do that. So we're going to go ahead and run that and run the system. So once this is going, it's going to take a little bit of time. It could take, depending on the speed of your computer, the speed of your drive, it could take anywhere from 1 or 2 minutes up to 10 or 15 minutes, depending on different factors. So once we are done with this, we should have a bootable drive, and we will test this bootable drive once this is done. So this is completed. I don't know, that took, 5-10 minutes, somewhere around there. So we're going to go ahead and close this. We can now remove our drive. And what we're going to do now is we will shut down the system. And if I can remember how to actually get into the BIOS, we'll see if this thing will boot. Otherwise, maybe I'll switch laptops because this is a little Surface. I don't remember exactly what I need to do to get it to work. So let's go ahead and shut this guy down. And then we will get it started back up here in a moment. So you can see here that it is booting up. And I did actually have to switch computers. The Surface Pro 1 is not necessarily an easy-to-use system to get booted into. So I did switch over different laptops here. But you'll see that it is actually booting. We'll give it just a second here. All right, so you can see here that we have booted into Linux Mint Mate. We have the installation option over here, which I'm not even going to risk clicking because this is a production laptop here. But you can see that everything is working just fine on the system, and we have successfully created a boot up system, a boot up ISO image. So you can see here that we have successfully created a bootable USB drive that is suitable for, well, anything other than the crappy Surface Pro 1 computer. That is a very, very niche system. Don't worry about that. But pretty much any other computer you'd have, you'd be able to successfully get booted into here. Now, we will show in another video, maybe in a couple of weeks or so, we'll show another one about a couple different BIOS systems and what those look like and things like that. But for now, this is how we can successfully test out Linux without actually changing anything. If I were to pull this drive out and reboot the computer, it would just go right back to whatever's on the disk drive inside this computer. With that, though, thank you for watching. Leave us your comments down below, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.